The screaming started at midnight. Lyra's hands froze on the wood she'd been splitting, the axe suspended mid-swing. For 6 months, she'd trained herself not to listen to the sounds coming from the heart of Pack territory, the laughter, the howls, the life she'd been exiled from. Tonight was worse. Tonight they were celebrating Alpha Cade's new Luna ceremony. She'd stopped checking the rejection scars on her wrist weeks ago. The raised silver marks where Cade had severed their mate bond had finally stopped burning, stopped reminding her every moment that she'd been found wanting. Defective. An Omega who couldn't complete her shift, whose wolf was as broken as her heart had become. But this sound, this high, desperate wailing cutting through the October night, this wasn't celebration. This was terror. Not my problem, Lyra whispered, forcing herself to bring the axe down. The log split clean. Not anymore. The crying grew more frantic. Her wolf stirred for the first time in months, whimpering. The incomplete shift had left her wolf fractured, present but unreachable, like trying to grasp smoke. But now something pulled at that broken connection, urgent and demanding. Pup. Pup in danger. Damn it. Lyra dropped the axe and ran. She knew these woods better than anyone. 6 months of exile had taught her every path, every shadow. The border territory was hers now, the forgotten land for a forgotten wolf. She moved through the darkness without thinking, following the sound that was growing weaker. That was worse. The silence would be worse. She found him in a ravine, a crumpled little shape against the exposed roots of a fallen oak. 3 years old, maybe 4. His lips were blue, his small body shaking so hard she could hear his teeth chattering from 10 feet away. Cade's son. Finn. Lyra had seen him exactly once, the day before her rejection. Cade had been teaching the boy to track, pride radiating from every word. My heir, he'd said. Perfect, like his mother was. Like his mother. Not like Lyra would ever be. Mama? The boy's voice cracked. Mama, I'm cold. His mother had been dead for 2 years. Lyra's chest constricted. Finn? Finn, honey, I'm here. She slid down the ravine, her boots catching on roots. The boy's eyes were glazed, unfocused. Hypothermic. How long had he been out here? The pack run had started at sunset, over 4 hours ago. Had no one noticed he was missing? Had no one heard him? Or had they been too busy celebrating the perfect new Luna to care? I want Mama. Tears froze on his cheeks. Everyone left. Why did everyone leave? I've got you. Lyra reached for him, her hands shaking, from cold or fury, she couldn't tell. I've got you, sweetheart. The moment her skin touched his, the world exploded into light. Pain, white-hot and absolute, tore through her spine. Her wolf, that broken fragment she'd mourned for months, suddenly surged. Not the half-thing she'd struggled with before, not the incomplete shift that had marked her as defective. This was whole. This was right. This was real. She felt her bones reshape, felt fur ripple across her skin, felt the power she'd been denied her entire life finally flood through her. Her senses sharpened to crystal clarity. She could smell the pack miles away, smell the honey wine and roasted meat. Smell Seraphina's sickly sweet perfume marking what used to be Lyra's place. And she could feel Finn, his terror, his cold, his desperate need for safety. Her wolf howled, not in pain but in purpose. Protect the pup. The shift reversed as quickly as it came, leaving Lyra gasping on her knees in human form. But something had changed. The broken thing inside her had healed. She could feel her wolf now, solid and sure, waiting. Whoa, Finn whispered, his eyes a little clearer. Pretty wolf. Yeah, baby. Lyra's voice shook. She stripped off her jacket and wrapped it around him, then pulled him against her chest. He was so cold. Too cold. Let's get you warm. She should take him back to the pack house. She should run straight to the ceremony, interrupt the perfect celebration, and return the Alpha's son to his arms. That was protocol. That was law. They would blame her. The thought hit her like a physical blow. She was the rejected Omega, living in exile, damaged and defective. They'd see her with Cade's son and assume the worst. Kidnapping. Revenge. The mad attempt of a scorned mate to hurt the Alpha who'd cast her aside. And Cade, God, Cade would believe them. He'd made his choice 6 months ago. He'd looked at her incomplete shift, at the wolf she couldn't quite become, and decided she wasn't enough. Wasn't worthy of being his Luna, of bearing his children, of standing at his side. He'd chosen Seraphina instead. Perfect, powerful Seraphina, who could shift like breathing. I should take you home, Lyra murmured against Finn's hair. No. The boy's grip tightened on her shirt. They left me. They didn't come back. Your daddy would come back. He's probably looking for you right now. But even as she said it, she heard the celebration in the distance growing louder. Victory howls. Joy. No search party. No panicked Alpha tearing through the woods. They hadn't even noticed. Her wolf snarled. They don't deserve him. No, Lyra agreed quietly. They don't. She stood, cradling Finn against her chest, and turned away from pack territory. Her cabin was closer anyway. A mile through the woods, to the little house she'd built from salvaged materials and determination. It wasn't much. 1 room, a fireplace, a bed she'd stuffed with pine needles and old blankets. But it was warm. It was safe. It was hers. We're going on an adventure, she told Finn, forcing brightness into her voice. Just for tonight. Like hide and seek. Exactly like that. She moved quickly through the trees, her newly complete wolf lending strength to her human form. She could hear better now, smell better. Track better. If anyone came looking, she'd know. No one came. The cabin appeared through the trees, dark and still. Lyra shouldered the door open and went straight to the fireplace, laying Finn on the rug while she built up the fire. Her hands moved on autopilot, stacking kindling, striking the flint. The flames caught, and she turned back to the boy. He'd curled into a ball, shivering so hard his whole body shook. Okay, honey, I need to get these wet clothes off you. Lyra worked quickly, her healer training from before the rejection kicking in. She'd been studying to be pack medic, back when she'd had a future. Strip the wet layers. Check for frostbite. Wrap and dry blankets. She had exactly 2 blankets. Here. She cocooned him in both, then lay down beside him, pulling him against her chest. Body heat. That's what he needed. I've got you. You're safe. Promise? His voice was so small. I promise. Mama used to say that. Finn's eyes were already closing, exhaustion taking him under. Before she went away. Lyra's throat tightened. She knew that story. The whole pack knew. Cade's first mate, Elena, had died giving birth to their second child, a daughter who'd survived only hours longer. The Alpha had been shattered, disappeared into grief for a year before emerging harder, colder. Looking for a new Luna to give him the air he'd lost. Looking for perfection. Sleep, Finn, Lyra whispered. You're safe now. He was asleep in seconds, his breathing evening out, his small body finally warming against hers. Lyra stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. What had she done? She'd taken the Alpha's son. Hidden him from the pack. The moment they realized Finn was gone, the moment they started searching, they'd come for her. And when they found him here, in her cabin, in her arms, they'd kill her. Exile was one thing. But this? This was unforgivable. Her wolf stirred, calm and certain. Worth it. Yeah, Lyra breathed. Yeah, it is. Because for the first time in 6 months, the rejection scars on her wrist weren't the worst pain she'd felt. For the first time since Cade had severed their bond, she'd felt something other than emptiness. She'd felt purpose. The little boy in her arms shifted, mumbling something in his sleep. His hand found hers, gripped tight. Lyra held on and waited for dawn, knowing that when it came, everything would shatter. Again. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The Alpha's roar shattered the celebration like glass. One moment, the pack was drunk on honey wine and victory, dancing under strings of lights as Seraphina held court in her new Luna's crown. The next, Cade was overturning tables, his wolf so close to the surface his eyes burned gold. "Where is my son?" Seraphina's smile froze. "What? Finn? He's with the other children, obviously. The other children are here." Cade's voice dropped to something deadly. "Every single pup is accounted for. Except mine." The pack house emptied in seconds. Wolves scattered in every direction, calling Finn's name into the darkness. Cade shifted mid-stride, a massive black wolf tearing into the forest. His howl split the night, not a call to hunt, but a father's anguish made sound. Beta Marcus caught up to him in wolf form, keeping pace through the trees. Through the pack bond, he felt Cade's terror like acid. The Alpha was unraveling. "When did you last see him?" Marcus pushed the thought through their connection. "Sunset." The answer came back jagged with panic. "The pack run. He was too young to keep up. I told him to stay close to the adults." "Did anyone stay with him?" Silence. Then, quieter, "I assumed Seraphina." Marcus's wolf snarled before he could stop it. He'd opposed this mating from the start. Seraphina was powerful, beautiful, everything a Luna should be on paper. But he'd seen how she looked at Finn, like the boy was an inconvenience, a reminder of the mate she'd replaced. They'd been searching for an hour when Marcus caught the scent. Old fear. Child's tears. And underneath it, something that made him freeze mid-stride. Lyra. He peeled away from the main search party, following the trail east. Toward the border. Toward exile territory where the rejected Omega lived alone in her shame. Toward the one wolf Cade had forbidden anyone to contact. Lyra hadn't slept. She'd held Finn through the night, keeping the fire fed, monitoring his breathing. The boy had warmed eventually, color returning to his cheeks, but he'd whimpered in his sleep. Nightmares. Every time she tried to lay him down, to put even an inch of distance between them, he jerked awake with a gasp. "Don't go. Please don't go." So she'd stayed. Now dawn crept through the cabin's single window, gray and cold. Finn was finally in deep sleep, his hands still twisted in her shirt. Lyra stared at that small fist and felt something crack open in her chest. 6 months ago, she'd imagined this. Not exactly this. In her dreams, the child had been hers and Cade's, conceived in love instead of duty. But she'd imagined the weight of a pup in her arms, the trust, the need. Then Cade had looked at her incomplete shift and destroyed that future with 3 words, "You're not enough." "Story of my life," Lyra whispered. Finn stirred. "Lyra? I'm here, honey. Are we still hiding?" Her throat tightened. "Do you want to tell me why we're hiding?" The boy's face crumpled. For a moment she thought he'd cry, but instead he just looked old, too old for 3 years. "Seraphina says I'm in the way." "In the way of what?" "Everything." He picked at the blanket. "She locks my door at night. Says little boys need to stay in their rooms during adult time. But I get scared. And she gets mad when I cry." Lyra's vision went red. "How long has this been happening?" "Since she came. Since Daddy said she was gonna be my new mama." Finn's voice dropped to a whisper. "But she's not nice like Mama was." She doesn't read stories or check for monsters. She just goes away. What about your daddy? Did you tell him? He's always busy now. Always with Serafina, making her happy. The boy looked up with eyes too knowing. He doesn't hear me anymore. The words hit like a physical blow. Lyra had seen it herself during those last weeks before the rejection, how Cade had changed, become harder, more obsessed with finding the perfect Luna. How he'd started looking at her with disappointment instead of love. But she'd never imagined he'd let that obsession blind him to his own son. Finn, listen to me. She cupped his face gently. None of this is your fault. You're not in the way. You're not too much. Your daddy, she swallowed hard. Your daddy loves you. He's forgotten how to show it. You showed it. Finn's lower lip trembled. You came when I was scared. Nobody else came. Oh, sweetheart. He threw his arms around her neck and buried his face in her shoulder. Lyra held him close, breathing in the scent of pack and pine and innocence, and felt her wolf rise up with absolute certainty. Mine. Our pup to protect. It didn't matter that she hadn't given birth to him. Didn't matter that his father had rejected her, that his new stepmother saw her as garbage. The bond she felt wrapping around her heart was as real as any blood tie. Maternal instinct. The thing that had finally completed her shift. I won't let anyone hurt you, she promised. I won't. The door exploded inward. Marcus stood in the doorway in human form, naked from the shift, his eyes wide with shock. Not at finding them, he'd obviously tracked them here. But at her. Lyra? He stared like she was a ghost. You shifted. Fully shifted. She stood slowly, putting herself between him and Finn. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you saved the Alpha's son. Marcus's voice was strange, careful. Goddess, Lyra, we've been searching all night. Cade is. The second crash was louder. Cade came through the door in a blur of rage and terror, shifting mid-lunge. He hit the floor as a human, his eyes wild, every muscle coiled to attack. When he saw Finn in Lyra's arms, something inhuman crossed his face. Get away from my son. Lyra's wolf surged forward, protective and fierce. He's safe. You took him. Cade's hands were claws now, his control shredded. You stole my child to get revenge, you bitter, broken. I saved him. The words ripped out of her. He was dying in a ravine while you celebrated your new perfect life. No one noticed he was gone. No one came looking. That's not. I heard him screaming at midnight, Cade. Midnight. How long was your pack run? How long did you party before you realized your son was missing? The Alpha flinched like she'd struck him. Marcus. Cade's voice was rigid with control. Take Finn. Now. The Beta moved forward slowly, hands raised. Finn, buddy, come here. Let's get you. No. The shriek stopped everyone cold. Finn twisted in Lyra's arms, his small face twisted with fury. I don't want to go. She's nice and you left me. Finn. Cade's voice cracked. Son, I didn't. You did. Tears streamed down the boy's face. I was crying and nobody came. The woods were dark and I was cold and I called for you and you didn't hear me. I didn't know. You never know. Finn was sobbing now, 3 years of neglect pouring out. You don't know Serafina is mean. You don't know she locks me in. You don't know she says I'm in the way. You don't know anything anymore. The silence that followed was absolute. Cade looked like he'd been gutted. What? She found me. Finn clung to Lyra like a lifeline. Lyra found me when everyone else forgot. She made me warm. She said I wasn't in the way. His voice dropped to a whisper. She came. Lyra felt the exact moment Cade's world shattered. Saw it in his eyes, the horror, the guilt, the dawning realization of what he'd allowed to happen while chasing his perfect future. Finn, the Alpha's voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were, that she was. You didn't want to know. The words came from Lyra before she could stop them. You were so focused on replacing what you lost that you stopped seeing what you still had. Cade's eyes snapped to hers, and for the first time in 6 months, she saw past the cold Alpha to the broken man underneath. Don't. You don't get to. I don't get to what? Tell you the truth? She was shaking now, months of pain rising up. You threw me away because I couldn't shift completely. Because I wasn't perfect enough to be your Luna, to give you perfect children, to replace your perfect dead mate. Lyra. But I shifted last night. She pulled back her sleeve, showing her arm where the rejection scars were still silver and raised. When I found Finn, when he needed me, my wolf completed. Not for you. Not for the mate bond you destroyed. For him. Cade stared at her transformed arm like it was a condemnation. That's not possible. Maternal instinct, Marcus said quietly from the doorway. It's rare, but it happens. When a wolf's protective drive is strong enough, it can trigger abilities that dormant or blocked. She bonded with my son. Cade's voice was hollow. Your son bonded with her. Marcus's tone was gentle but firm. Because she was there when he needed someone. When we all failed him. The Alpha's legs seemed to give out. He sank to his knees on the cabin floor, staring at Finn. I left you. I left you alone and I didn't even know you were gone. You were busy with the party. Finn's voice was small again, resigned. You're always busy now. No. No, that ends today. Cade looked up at Lyra, and she saw him clearly for the first time in months, not the Alpha, not the mate who'd rejected her, but a father drowning in his own failure. How long has Seraphina been? Since she arrived. Lyra forced herself to stay calm. He told me she locks him in his room at night. Calls him, in the way. Ignores him unless you're watching. The air pressure in the cabin changed. Cade's wolf was rising, but this time the rage wasn't directed at her. Where is she? Still at the pack house, probably. Marcus checked his phone. The pack's been searching all night. She organized the Western search parties. Organized. Cade's laugh was bitter. While my son was hypothermic and alone, she was organizing. You didn't know, Lyra said quietly. You should have, but you didn't. That's not an excuse. No. It's not. They stared at each other across the small cabin, 6 months of hurt and anger hanging between them. Lyra saw the moment Cade registered her complete shift, the way his eyes widened with understanding and shame. You're not broken, he whispered. You never were. No. I just needed a reason to shift that mattered more than pleasing you. The words hit their mark. Cade flinched like she'd struck him. I was wrong. About everything. About you, about what makes a good Luna, about, he looked at Finn. About what my son needed. Admitting it doesn't fix it. I know. He stood slowly, his movements careful, like he was approaching a wounded animal. But I want to try. Not for me. For him. He nodded toward Finn. He trusts you. He feels safe with you. I can't, I won't take that away from him. Lyra's grip on Finn tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying you saved my son when I failed him. You gave him what I couldn't. Cade's voice roughened. And I'm saying that if you walk out of this cabin right now and never look back, I wouldn't blame you. But if you stay, if you're willing to be in his life, to let him have the protection and love you showed him last night, I won't stop you. Even though I'm the rejected Omega? The broken wolf you cast out? You're not broken. I was. He took a shaking breath. I lost Elena and I couldn't handle it, so I tried to find a replacement instead of healing. I thought power and perfection would fill the hole she left. But all I did was create new holes. In my son. In my pack. His eyes met hers. In you. Marcus cleared his throat. Cade, the pack's going to have questions. About where Finn was, about who found him. Then I'll tell them the truth. The Alpha's voice hardened. That my rejected mate saved my son's life while the rest of us celebrated a Luna who didn't deserve the title. You'd publicly acknowledge that? Lyra couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. After you humiliated me in front of the entire pack? After you said I wasn't worthy? I'll do more than acknowledge it. He stopped, looking at Finn. What do you want, son? Do you want to go home? The boy's face crumpled with confusion. Will Seraphina be there? Not for long. Will Lyra? The question hung in the air like a knife. Cade looked at Lyra, and she saw everything in his eyes, regret, hope, desperation. That's up to her. Every instinct screamed at Lyra to run. To take this moment of vindication and disappear, let Cade suffer the consequences of his choices. She'd earned her exile, earned her bitterness, earned the right to walk away. But Finn's hand was still twisted in her shirt. And her wolf was still growling one word, mine. I need guarantees, she heard herself say. I won't come back just to be cast out again when you find another perfect Omega. You have my word as Alpha. Your word as Alpha rejected me once. She cut him off. I need more than words, Cade. I need pack law. I need protection. Marcus stepped forward. What kind of protection? Lyra looked at Finn, at his hopeful face, and made her choice. I want to be named his official guardian. With all the rights that entails. If Cade tries to exile me again, or any Luna tries to separate me from Finn, it goes to pack council vote. Cade stopped. That would make you untouchable. It would give you equal authority over my son's welfare. Yes. You don't trust me. You broke that trust. Lyra's voice was steady. If you want me to be in Finn's life, if you want him to have the stability and love he deserves, then you give up some control. You prove you've learned. The Alpha and the rejected Omega stared at each other while the dawn light grew stronger through the window. Finally, Cade nodded. Done. I'll call an emergency pack council today. You'll be named Finn's guardian with full authority. And my exile is lifted. Completely. Completely. You come home. To the pack house, to pack lands, to, his voice caught. To where you should have been all along. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her. This wasn't forgiveness. This wasn't reconciliation. This was survival, for her, for Finn, for the fragile bond that had formed in the darkness. Okay, she whispered. For him, okay. Finn threw his arms around her neck. You're staying? Really staying? Really staying, sweetheart. The boy burst into tears, relief, joy, exhaustion all pouring out. Lyra held him close, rocking gently, and when she looked up, Cade was watching them with something broken and awed on his face. Thank you, the Alpha said quietly. For saving him. For being what I couldn't. Don't thank me yet. Lyra's voice was hard. We have a lot to sort out. Starting with your new Luna. Cade's expression went cold. Leave Seraphina to me. No. She stood, still holding Finn. I want to be there when you confront her. I want her to see exactly what she lost. A dangerous smile crossed the Alpha's face. As you wish, Guardian. The title, unofficial until the Pack Council voted, but weighted with promise, hung between them. Marcus moved to the door. Then we should go. The Pack's still searching. They need to know Finn's safe. They need to know more than that. Cade's eyes never left Lyra's. They need to know what happens when an alpha stops listening to his wolf and starts listening to his pride. Lyra adjusted Finn on her hip, feeling her complete wolf settle into place like it had always been there, just waiting for the right moment. For the right reason. Then let's go tell them, she said. And walked out of exile with the alpha's son in her arms and vengeance singing in her blood. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The pack house was in chaos when they arrived. Wolves crowded the main hall in various states of dress and undress, some still wearing their ceremony clothes, others mud-splattered from hours of searching. The moment Cade walked through the door with Finn in Lyra's arms, the noise died like someone had cut the sound. Then it exploded. Thank the goddess. Finn. The alpha's son. Where was he? Who found him? Lyra felt their stares like brands. 6 months ago, she'd walked out of this pack house in shame, the rejection scars still smoking on her wrist. Now she was back, holding the future alpha, her wolf complete and powerful in a way that made the air around her shimmer. They didn't know how to process it. Seraphina emerged from the crowd like a vision, her Luna crown still perfect despite the supposed all-night search. Her face was a mask of relief and concern. Oh, thank the goddess. Finn, baby, we were so worried. She reached for the boy. Finn buried his face in Lyra's neck. The rejection was visible, visceral. Seraphina's hands froze mid-air, her expression flickering between hurt and fury before settling on wounded confusion. Finn. Sweetheart, it's me. It's safe now. Don't wanna. His voice was muffled against Lyra's shoulder. He's exhausted, Cade said, his voice tight. And traumatized. Seraphina, we need to talk. In my office. Now. Of course, Alpha. Her eyes slid to Lyra, cold and assessing. But first, shouldn't we address the elephant in the room? How exactly did the rejected Omega end up with your son? The emphasis on rejected was deliberate, designed to remind everyone of Lyra's status. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She found him, Marcus said firmly. When none of us could. Found him? Seraphina's laugh was like breaking glass. Or took him. We only have her word for what happened out there. For all we know, she could have. Careful. Cade's voice dropped to a growl. Very careful where you go with that thought. But the seed was planted. Lyra could see it in the faces around her, suspicion, doubt. The rejected Omega, bitter and alone, seeking revenge by taking what the Alpha loved most. Elder Miriam stepped forward from the council section, her ancient face grave. Alpha Cade, pack law is clear. Any wolf who removes the Alpha's heir from pack lands without permission faces trial. Regardless of intent. She saved his life, Cade said through gritted teeth. So she claims. Miriam's eyes were sympathetic but firm. But we have no witnesses. No proof of her story. And the law exists for a reason, to protect our most vulnerable from those who might use them as pawns. I'm not using him. Lyra's voice rang out. I found him hypothermic and alone in a ravine. I did what anyone would do, I kept him safe. Why not bring him straight back? Another council member, Elder Thomas, challenged. Why take him to your cabin? Why hide him all night? I didn't hide him. The entire pack was searching, Thomas continued. Yet you never alerted anyone. Never sent word. You kept the Alpha's son in exile territory for 8 hours. That's not rescue. That's abduction. The crowd's energy shifted, dangerous now. Lyra felt her wolf rise in defense, but she forced it down. Aggression now would only prove their point. Finn was too cold to move safely, she said, keeping her voice level. And she stopped, knowing how it would sound. I wasn't sure what kind of reception I'd get. Because you know you did something wrong, Serafina interjected smoothly. She moved to Cade's side, playing her part perfectly. Alpha, I understand she helped find Finn, and we're grateful. But she also violated pack law. We can't ignore that just because she used to be, well. She gestured delicately at the rejection scars on Lyra's wrist. Cade's jaw worked. He looked at Finn, who was watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. Pack Council will convene in 1 hour, the Alpha said finally. Lyra will face formal inquiry. Cade. It's Alpha Cade, he said, not looking at her. And it's non-negotiable. Pack law applies to everyone. The dismissal stung worse than the rejection had. Lyra understood what he was doing, showing the pack he wouldn't play favorites, that justice was blind even when it came to his son. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. Fine. She adjusted Finn on her hip. But he stays with me until then. Absolutely not. Serafina's mask cracked. He needs to be checked by the physician, cleaned up, fed. He needs to feel safe. Lyra met her eyes. And right now, I'm the only one who makes him feel that way. Isn't that right, Finn? The boy nodded against her neck. Cade closed his eyes briefly. Take him to the guest quarters. Marcus will stand guard. No one in or out except the physician. Alpha, you can't seriously. That's an order, Serafina. Cade's tone left no room for argument. Council room. 1 hour. We'll discuss everything then. Dr. Sarah Chin arrived within minutes, her medical bag in hand and her expression carefully neutral. She'd been pack physician for 20 years and had seen everything, including Lyra's incomplete shifts, the desperate attempts to force her wolf forward, the shame that came with each failure. Now she stared at the fully shifted Omega with poorly concealed shock. Lyra. Your wolf. Completed last night. I know. Lyra set Finn on the bed. Can you examine him? Please. Sarah's professionalism kicked in. She moved to the boy with gentle efficiency, checking his vitals, his temperature, looking for injuries. Finn cooperated quietly, but his hand never left Lyra's. Tell me what happened, Sarah said as she worked. Lyra recounted the night, the ravine, the hypothermia, the shift that had completed out of nowhere. She didn't mention what Finn had told her about Serafina. Not yet. That needed to come from him. Sarah finished her examination and sat back, her expression troubled. He's okay. Cold exposure, mild dehydration, exhaustion. Nothing that won't heal with rest and care. She paused. But Lyra, there are other things. What things? The doctor pulled out her tablet, showing images. These bruises on his arms. They're defensive wounds. And he's lost 3 pounds in the last month. I know because I weigh him at every checkup. That's significant for a child his size. Lyra's blood went cold. Defensive wounds? The kind you get from grabbing or restraining. Sarah's voice was careful. I have to report this to the Alpha. It's protocol when a child shows signs of abuse. The word felt like poison. I didn't say that. But you're thinking it. Lyra looked at Finn, who had gone very still. Tell her, honey. Tell Dr. Sarah what you told me. The boy's eyes filled with tears. Am I in trouble? No, baby. Never. But we need adults to know the truth. It took 20 minutes for the whole story to come out. How Serafina had started nice but gotten meaner after the bonding ceremony. How she locked his door at night and told him to be quiet. How she grabbed his arms when he tried to leave his room. How she told him he was ruining her new life with his father. How she'd forgotten him entirely yesterday during the pack run. Sarah's face went from concern to furious as she listened. When Finn finished, she pulled out her phone. What are you doing? Lyra asked. Documenting. Every word. This goes to the council, and to the Alpha, before the inquiry starts. Will it be enough? The doctor looked at her with something like respect. 6 months ago, you couldn't complete your shift. Today, you're fully transformed and challenging pack law for a child who isn't even yours. What happened to you, Lyra? I stopped trying to be what everyone else wanted, Lyra said quietly. And started being what he needed. The council room was packed when Lyra walked in with Finn on her hip. The 5 pack elders sat at the raised table, Miriam, Thomas, and 3 others whose names Lyra had once known but had forgotten in exile. Cade stood to the right in full alpha regalia, his face carved from stone. Seraphina sat beside him, beautiful and composed, her hand resting possessively on his arm. The crowd filled every available space. This wasn't just a trial. This was entertainment. Lyra Thorne, Elder Miriam began formally. You stand accused of removing the Alpha's heir from pack lands without permission, a violation of protection law. How do you plead? Not guilty. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. You admit you took the child to your cabin? Thomas pressed. I admit I saved him from dying of exposure while the rest of you partied. Watch your tone, Cade said quietly. It wasn't a threat, it was a warning. He was trying to help her, she realized. Trying to keep her from making it worse. But Lyra was done playing by rules that had been designed to keep her broken. I'll watch my tone when someone explains how a 3-year-old was left alone in the forest for 4 hours without anyone noticing, she shot back. Where were his guardians? His pack? His new Luna? Seraphina's eyes flashed. I was coordinating search parties all night. After you realized he was missing. Which was when, exactly? The pack run was chaotic, everyone was shifting and... He's 3. Lyra's voice was ice. He can't shift. He can't keep up. Someone should have been watching him specifically. Someone should have noticed when he fell behind. Are you suggesting I neglected him? Seraphina's voice rose. I've done nothing but try to be a good mother to that boy since I accepted the Luna bond. But he's difficult, resistant. He's traumatized. Lyra looked at Cade. And I can prove it. She nodded to Marcus, who passed Sarah's tablet to the elders. The physician's report. Complete with photos of bruises and weight loss charts, loaded on the screen. What is this? Miriam demanded. Evidence. Lyra kept her voice steady even as her heart hammered. Evidence that Finn has been systematically neglected and abused since Seraphina became Luna. Defensive wounds. Weight loss. Emotional trauma. All documented by your pack physician. The room erupted. This is ridiculous. Seraphina was on her feet. Those bruises are from playing. He's a rambunctious child. Then explain the weight loss, Sarah said from the back of the room. Explain why he flinches when you reach for him. Explain the door locks. What door locks? Cade's voice was deadly quiet. She locked him in his room, Lyra said. At night. Told him he was in the way during adult time. He was too scared to cry out because she'd get angry. That's a lie. Seraphina's composure shattered. She's manipulating you. She's a rejected, bitter Omega who's trying to destroy my bond with the Alpha. Then let's ask Finn. Lyra set the boy on his feet but kept her hand on his shoulder. Tell them, honey. Tell them what you told Dr. Sarah. Every eye in the room turned to the small child. Finn looked terrified, shaking, but when Lyra squeezed his shoulder gently, he found his voice. She's mean, he whispered. She says I'm bad. She locks me in so I can't bother Daddy. The silence was absolute. Cade looked like he'd been struck. His eyes went from his son to his Luna to Lyra, and something in his expression crumbled. Finn. Son. Is that true? Don't make him say it. Seraphina's voice was desperate now. He's confused, he's been influenced by her. Answer me. The Alpha's roar shook the rafters. Did she lock you in your room? Yes, Finn sobbed. I'm sorry, Daddy, I didn't want to tell, I didn't want to make you sad. Cade moved faster than thought, crossing the room to drop to his knees in front of his son. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. This is not your fault. But she said. I don't care what she said. Cade's hands shook as he cupped Finn's face. I failed you. I should have seen, should have known. This is absurd. Seraphina's voice was shrill now. You're taking the word of a manipulated child over your bonded Luna? Over the mate bond we share? The mate bond? Cade stood slowly, turning to face her. Is that what you think this is about? You hurt my son. You locked him in his room like a prisoner. You let him wander into the forest alone during a pack run and didn't even notice he was gone. I didn't know. You should have known. The Alpha's control snapped. He's 3 years old. He's your responsibility. And instead of protecting him, he stopped, breathing hard. Get out. Get out of my sight before I forget pack law and tear you apart myself. Seraphina's face went white. You can't, the Luna bond can be severed for cause. And you just gave me cause. Cade looked at the elders. I want an emergency dissolution. Tonight. Alpha, Miriam said carefully. That's a serious accusation. If the Luna bond is broken without proper evidence. I have evidence. Lyra's voice rang out. And I have rights under pack law. The room went silent again. What rights? Thomas asked warily. Lyra took a breath, knowing she was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Ancient rights. Protection Law, Section 7, Subsection 3. Any pack member may challenge for custody of a pup if systematic neglect can be proven. The elders went pale. That law hasn't been invoked in 70 years, Miriam whispered. Because it's social suicide, Thomas added. Omegas don't challenge alphas. Rejected wolves don't challenge Lunas. You'd have to prove beyond doubt that you're more capable of protecting the alpha's heir than his own father. I already did. Lyra's voice was steady. I found him when Cade didn't. I kept him safe when Seraphina wouldn't. I triggered a full shift through maternal instinct, something that only happens when a wolf recognizes a pup as their own to protect. You're insane, Seraphina hissed. You'll be destroyed for this. Maybe. Lyra looked at Cade. But he'll be safe. That's all that matters. The Alpha stared at her, something broken and awed on his face. You'd risk everything for him? After what I did to you? He's a child. An innocent child who deserves better than what he's gotten. She straightened her shoulders. I invoke protection challenge. I demand trial by ordeal to prove I'm worthy to be Finn's guardian. The crowd exploded in shocked whispers. Seraphina laughed, high and sharp. This is ridiculous. She's a rejected Omega. She can't. She can. Elder Miriam's voice cut through the chaos. The law is clear. If she can complete 3 traditional tasks to prove her capability as a guardian, the council must vote on transferring protective custody. But she won't. Seraphina's confidence was returning. The tasks are designed to be nearly impossible. Strength, wisdom, sacrifice, things an Omega could never. I was an Omega, Lyra corrected quietly. Past tense. I'm fully shifted now. Which means I'm just a wolf. And wolves protect their pack. Cade moved suddenly, positioning himself in front of her. If you do this, if you invoke the challenge and fail even one task, pack law demands you be permanently exiled. Not just from the pack house. From pack lands entirely. Your bonds will be stripped. You'll become lone. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Lone wolves rarely survived. Without pack bonds, without the connection to others of their kind, they faded. Went mad. Died alone. I know the law, Lyra said. Then you know you're gambling everything. His eyes searched hers. Why? Why risk this? She looked past him to Finn, who was watching her with hope and terror warring on his small face. Because he came into my life when I was broken and gave me a reason to be whole. Because every child deserves someone who'll fight for them. Because, her voice cracked. Because I know what it's like to be rejected, and I won't let him feel that pain. Something shifted in Cade's expression. Regret, guilt, and something else, something that looked almost like wonder. If I add conditions, he said slowly, as is my right as Alpha, would you still accept? Lyra's wolf growled a warning. What conditions? The tasks will be chosen by the elders to ensure fairness. You'll have 3 days to complete all 3. And, he paused. If you fail even one, you'll be exiled permanently. But if you succeed in all 3, I'll grant you full guardian rights. Not temporary custody. Full legal authority over Finn's welfare, equal to my own. Gasps rippled through the crowd. That was unheard of. It would make her untouchable by pack law. You'd give up that much control? Lyra asked. I'd give up anything to protect my son. Even my pride. His voice dropped. Even my mistakes. Serafina made a strangled sound. Alpha, you can't seriously. You're dismissed from this council, Cade said without looking at her. Your bond will be dissolved by morning. Be grateful I'm letting you walk away at all. You'll regret this. She turned on Lyra, her face twisted with rage. She'll fail. She'll be lone. And you'll have nothing. I'd rather have nothing than watch another child suffer because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. Cade's eyes never left Lyra's. The question is, will you risk everything for the chance to protect him? Lyra looked at Finn, who had moved to stand beside her, his small hand finding hers. Yes, she said simply. I accept the challenge. The room erupted in chaos, protests, cheers, shocked exclamations. But Lyra only saw Finn's face, saw the hope blooming there, and knew that whatever came next, this moment was worth it. Even if it destroyed her. Elder Miriam raised her hand for silence. Let the record show that Lyra Thorne, formerly rejected Omega, has invoked ancient protection challenge for custody of Finn Blackwood, heir to the Alpha line. The trial by ordeal will commence at dawn. 3 tasks. 3 days. Success grants full guardian rights. Failure results in permanent exile and severing of all pack bonds. She looked at Lyra with something that might have been respect or pity. May the goddess guide your path, challenger. You'll need her blessing. Lyra nodded once, her hand tight around Finn's, and prepared to fight for the thing she'd thought the rejection had taken from her forever. A family. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. Dawn came cold and unforgiving. Lyra stood at the edge of the training grounds, Finn strapped securely to her back in a carrier Marcus had modified for the trial. The boy's arms wrapped around her neck, his weight solid and trusting against her spine. I'm scared, he whispered. Me too, honey. She reached back to squeeze his hand. But we're doing this together. The pack had gathered in a circle around the forest boundary. Hundreds of wolves, all waiting to see if the rejected Omega could survive what was about to happen. Elder Miriam stood at the center, her ancient face grave. The first trial is strength, she announced. But not the strength of fang and claw. The strength to endure. To protect while being hunted. She gestured to 6 massive wolves who stepped forward. Lyra recognized them, the pack's elite warriors. Marcus among them, though his wolf's eyes were apologetic. These 6 will hunt you for 24 hours. You cannot fight back. You cannot harm them. You must only evade, while keeping the pup safe on your back. Miriam's voice carried across the clearing. If they catch you, you fail. If the child is harmed, you fail. If you shift him off your back, you fail. That's impossible, someone muttered in the crowd. That's the point, another answered. Lyra felt Finn's grip tighten. She touched his hand again, steady. Remember what I told you? About being brave? Being brave means being scared but doing it anyway. That's right, baby. So let's be brave together. Cade stood apart from the crowd, his face unreadable. But Lyra saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched and unclenched. He'd added these conditions, made the trials nearly impossible, but now he was watching his son prepare to be hunted, and the alpha was fracturing. You have a 10-minute head start, Miriam said. Use it wisely. Lyra shifted. The transformation came easier this time, natural as breathing. Her wolf was sleek and powerful, built for speed rather than strength. The carrier adjusted with her shift, a special design that had taken Marcus hours to perfect. Finn's weight settled between her shoulder blades, secure and safe. Whoa, the boy breathed. You're so pretty. Lyra's wolf would have smiled if she could. Instead, she howled once, defiant and fierce, and bolted into the forest. Behind her, she heard Miriam's voice, let the hunt begin. Hour 6, and Lyra was already bleeding. She'd managed to stay ahead of the hunters through cunning and speed, using every trick her exile months had taught her. But the warriors were relentless, and they knew these woods as well as she did. Better, because they'd been training here while she'd been surviving on the borders. A near miss with Marcus's wolf had left her with a gash along her ribs. Not deep enough to disable her, but enough to leave a blood trail. Finn had been silent for the last hour, trusting her completely. She could feel his small heartbeat against her back, steady and brave. Should never have to be this brave, her wolf thought fiercely. Should never have to be hunted. But this was the trial. This was the price for protecting him. She splashed through a creek to mask her scent, then doubled back on her own trail. An old trick, but effective. She heard the hunters pass her hiding spot in the underbrush, their massive forms like shadows in the fading light. Can we rest? Finn whispered when they were gone. Lyra shifted back to human just long enough to check him, to make sure the jostling hadn't hurt him. His face was pale but determined. We're halfway through, she said softly, ignoring the burning in her ribs. 12 more hours. Can you hold on? Will you? The question hit her hard. This 3-year-old was worried about her. Yes, she promised. I'll hold on. For you, I'll hold on. She shifted back and ran. Hour 18, and everything was going wrong. 3 hunters had cornered her in a box canyon, their wolves massive and inexorable. Lyra's legs were shaking with exhaustion, her wound had reopened, and Finn's weight, precious as it was, felt like it was grinding her spine to dust. Can't fight back, she reminded herself desperately. That's the rule. But the hunters were closing in, and there was nowhere left to run. Marcus's wolf was in front, blocking the only exit. She saw the apology in his eyes, the regret. He didn't want to do this. But he had to. Those were the rules. Lyra made a choice. She ran straight at him. The beta wolf's eyes widened in shock as she used his shoulder as a launching pad, her momentum carrying her up and over his massive form. She felt claws rake her hindquarters as another hunter snapped at her, but she was already past them, Finn's startled laugh ringing out. Again, the boy shouted. Do it again. Lyra's wolf would have laughed if she had the breath. Instead, she poured everything into one final sprint, knowing the finish line was close. 3 more hours. Just 3 more hours. She could do this. She had to. She crossed the boundary line at dawn, exactly 24 hours after she'd started. Her legs gave out immediately, dumping her in the dirt. She managed to shift back to human before she collapsed completely, her hands fumbling to release Finn from the carrier. Lyra? His voice was scared. Lyra, wake up. Mwake, she mumbled. Everything hurt. Everything was on fire. But Finn was safe. That was all that mattered. Dr. Sarah was there suddenly, checking her injuries with quick, professional movements. Cracked ribs. Severe lacerations. Exhaustion and dehydration. You should be dead. Not dead, Lyra managed. Trial 1. Complete. Elder Miriam's voice came from somewhere above her. You have 24 hours to recover before Trial 2 begins. What? No, Lyra tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. That's not enough time. That's the condition. Cade's voice was rough. He appeared in her blurred vision, dropping to his knees beside her. Lyra, stop. You need medical attention. Need to finish, she gasped. 2 more trials. You can't even stand. Don't matter. She finally managed to focus on his face, saw the anguish there. Trial 2. What is it? Miriam sighed. Trial of wisdom. There's a territorial dispute with the Shadowmere pack on our northern border. They claim we violated treaty terms. It's escalated to violence. 3 of our border patrol were attacked last night. You must resolve it without bloodshed and without the Alpha's authority. Lyra's mind struggled through the fog of pain. Shadowmere? They've been peaceful for years. Why now? That's what you need to find out. The elder's face was grim. You have 24 hours. If the dispute isn't resolved, we go to war. And you fail. No pressure, Lyra muttered, then passed out. She woke 12 hours later in the medical wing, her ribs wrapped tight and her body screaming. Finn was curled up beside her bed in a chair Marcus had pulled close, his small hand wrapped around her finger. Hey, sweetheart, she whispered. His eyes flew open. You're awake. Dr. Sarah said you might not wake up for days. Takes more than that to keep me down. She forced herself to sit up, biting back a groan. Has there been any news about the border dispute? It's getting worse. Marcus entered the room, his expression dark. Shadowmere sent a formal declaration an hour ago. If we don't meet their demands by dawn, they're considering it an act of war. What are their demands? Territory concession. They want a 5-mile strip of our northern forest, including the sacred grounds where we bury our dead. Lyra's blood went cold. That's insane. Alpha Drake of Shadowmere would never demand that. He's honorable. Maybe he's changed. Or maybe something else is going on. Lyra swung her legs out of bed, ignoring the way the room spun. I need to talk to him. Face to face. That's suicide. If you cross into Shadowmere territory without Cade's authority. The trial requires I do this without the Alpha's authority. That means I'm on my own. She looked at Marcus. Can you get me to the border? The Beta studied her for a long moment. You think something's wrong. Not just with the demands, but with the whole situation. I think it's too convenient. Cade bonds with Seraphina. Suddenly there's a territorial crisis that requires skilled diplomacy, which Seraphina claims to have. It makes Cade dependent on her, makes her look essential. You think she orchestrated this? I think she's desperate. And desperate wolves do desperate things. Lyra stood, swaying. I need to prove it. But first, I need to stop a war. The Shadowmere border was quiet when Lyra arrived, Marcus at her side despite her protests. The Beta had refused to let her go alone, claiming he was there as a witness, not backup. They found Alpha Drake waiting at the boundary marker, his silver wolf massive and imposing. He shifted to human as they approached, his ancient eyes sharp. The rejected Omega, he rumbled. Come to beg for mercy? Come to ask what the hell is going on, Lyra countered. You've held treaty with Blackwood Pack for 30 years. Why break it now over territory you don't need? Don't need? Drake's voice was dangerous. Your Alpha's new Luna has been running patrols into our territory for weeks. marking our trees, threatening our wolves. She said Cade authorized expansion, that our treaty was void. Lyra's heart stopped. Serafina told you that? She sent formal notice. Signed with the Alpha's seal. Drake pulled a document from his pocket and thrust it at her. See for yourself. Lyra scanned the paper, her blood turning to ice. It was official pack stationery. The seal was perfect. But the signature. This isn't Cade's signature, she said slowly. It's close, but the slant is wrong. And he'd never authorized this. Then your Luna is acting without authority. Which means your pack is in chaos. Drake's eyes narrowed. Give us the territory as compensation, and we'll overlook the insult. Or we could prove this was a forgery designed to start a war. Lyra looked at Marcus. Who has access to the Alpha's seal? Cade keeps it in his office. But the Luna would have access during ceremonies and, Marcus's eyes widened. The bonding ceremony. Serafina was in his office for hours while he was preparing. She could have made an impression. Forged documents. Created a crisis only she could solve. Lyra looked at Drake. She's been manipulating both our packs. I need time to prove it. You have until dawn, Drake said flatly. After that, my warriors attack. Those are my terms. Then we'd better work fast. Lyra turned and ran, her injured body protesting every step. They found the evidence in Serafina's private quarters, wax impressions of the Alpha's seal, forged documents, and most damning of all, correspondence with a group of rogues she'd hired to stage the border attacks. She created the whole thing, Marcus breathed, staring at the letters. The attacks, the demands, everything. She wanted to prove her worth as Luna by solving a crisis she manufactured. And I'm betting she has more planned. Lyra's hands shook as she photographed everything with her phone. This is enough to expose her. But she's already exposed. Serafina's voice came from the doorway, silky and dangerous. Cade dissolved our bond this morning. I have nothing left to lose. She wasn't alone. 3 massive rogues flanked her, their eyes feral. Which means, Serafina continued, I can finally do what I wanted to do from the beginning. Remove you permanently. The rogues attacked. Marcus shifted instantly, throwing himself at the nearest one. But there were 3 of them and only one of him, and Lyra was too injured to shift, too slow to. Pain exploded through her shoulder as teeth found flesh. She went down hard, her vision blurring. Through the chaos, she heard Finn screaming somewhere in the pack house. And everything inside her snapped. Lyra didn't remember getting back to the medical wing. Didn't remember Marcus calling for backup or the rogues being subdued. All she knew was that Finn was crying, and she needed to get to him. She found him in her recovery room, curled up and sobbing. Finn. Baby, what's wrong? But when she touched him, his skin was burning. Dr. Sarah. Lyra's scream brought the physician running. Something's wrong, he's burning up. Sarah's examination was swift and horrified. Poison. Wolfsbane derivative. Enough to make him seriously ill but not enough to kill. Someone wanted him sick for the final trial. Lyra's blood turned to ice. The choice trial. Finn has to choose who he feels safest with. If he's too sick to speak, too delirious to choose clearly. Serafina, Marcus snarled from the doorway. It has to be. She knew she'd lose the choice, so she. Where is she? Disappeared after the attack. But Lyra, there's an antidote. It's in the healer's stores, but it's locked. Only Cade and the head healer have keys, and the healer is at the Shadowmere border negotiating. Lyra was already moving. Wait, if you break into the stores, they'll think you poisoned him. They'll assume. I don't care. She was running now, her injured body howling in protest. I don't care what they think. He's dying. The healer's stores were in the packhouse basement, behind a reinforced door with a lock that would take hours to pick. Lyra didn't have hours. She shifted, let her wolf's full strength flood through her, and tore the door off its hinges. Alarms screamed. Wolves howled in response. But Lyra was already inside, searching frantically through labeled bottles and herbs. Wolfsbane antidote. Has to be here. Has to. She found it just as heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. Cade burst into the room in full alpha fury, his eyes wild. What the hell are you doing? Saving your son. Lyra grabbed the bottle and bolted for the door. Cade caught her in 2 strides, slamming her against the wall. The bottle flew from her hand, shattering on the floor. You poisoned him. You poisoned my son to win the trial. No. Lyra's scream was ragged. Serafina poisoned him. She knew she'd lose the choice, so she made sure he couldn't choose. I was trying to get the antidote. Lies. His hand was around her throat now, lifting her off the ground. I trusted you. I gave you a chance. And you tried to kill him. Cade, stop. Marcus was there, trying to pull the alpha back. Listen to her. Finn was fine until tonight. Serafina had access. Serafina is gone. Cade's control was shattered, his wolf completely in control. Lyra was the last one with him. She broke into the stores. The evidence is nothing compared to the truth. Lyra's vision was going dark, but she forced the words out. You want truth? Fine. I'll give you truth. She stopped fighting. Stopped struggling. Let her wolf rise up with a power she'd never felt before. And screamed. The sound that came out wasn't human. Wasn't even really wolf. It was something older, something primal, the Omega distress call that hadn't been heard in generations. A sound that compelled truth from anyone within range, that stripped away lies and left only raw honesty. The packhouse shuddered with it. Wolves throughout the territory dropped to their knees, unable to resist the call's power. And Serafina, hiding in the woods beyond pack lands, felt it pull her back like chains. She tried to fight it. Lyra saw her stumbling through the trees, her face twisted with rage and terror. But the call was irresistible. The truth wanted out. I poisoned him, Serafina gasped, the words ripping from her throat. I put wolfsbane in his juice this evening. Just enough to make him too sick to choose. Just enough to invalidate the trial. Cade dropped Lyra like she'd burned him. What? I had to. Serafina was crying now, unable to stop the confession. He was going to choose her. A rejected Omega over me. It wasn't fair. I did everything right. I was perfect. You tried to kill my son. I was protecting my position. The dam had broken completely now. I never wanted him. I wanted you. Your power, your pack, your status. But the boy was always in the way, always needing attention, always reminding you of her. Elena, Cade whispered, horrified. Yes. Your perfect dead mate who I could never replace. So I got rid of the reminder. Locked him away. Made him invisible. And when that wasn't enough, when you started seeing through me, I created the border crisis. Hired rogues to attack. Forged your seal. Made myself indispensable. Her laugh was broken. But she pointed at Lyra. She ruined everything. The rejected failure who wasn't supposed to matter. Who was supposed to stay broken. But I didn't, Lyra rasped, her throat bruised from Cade's grip. I healed. Because of him. She pointed to where Finn lay in the medical wing above them, his small body fighting poison. Because he needed me to be whole. So I became whole. Not for you. She looked at Cade. Never for you again. For him. The Omega call faded, leaving silence in its wake. Serafina collapsed, sobbing. I just wanted to matter. I wanted to be enough. By hurting a child? Cade's voice was hollow. By poisoning my son? I didn't mean, I just wanted. Guards. The Alpha's command was absolute. Take her. She'll face pack justice for attempted murder of an heir. As they dragged Serafina away, still crying, Cade turned to Lyra. She saw everything in his face, horror, guilt, shame, and a grief so profound it made her own rejection seem small. The antidote, he whispered. I broke it. There's more. Dr. Sarah appeared with another bottle. It's okay. We can still save him. They ran together to the medical wing, Lyra and Cade side by side for the first time since the rejection. Dr. Sarah administered the antidote while they watched, helpless. 15 minutes that felt like hours. Then Finn's eyes opened. Lyra? His voice was weak but clear. Did we win? She couldn't stop the tears. Yeah, baby. We won. Good. He reached for her hand. 'Cause I choose you. For the trial. I choose you to keep me safe. Cade made a sound like he'd been stabbed. Elder Miriam, who had appeared during the chaos, nodded slowly. The third trial is complete. The choice has been made. She looked at Lyra. You've passed all 3 trials. Strength, wisdom, and heart. By pack law, you are granted full guardian rights over Finn Blackwood, equal to the Alpha's authority. Lyra looked at Cade, expecting anger or resentment. Instead, she saw only relief. Thank you, he said quietly. For saving him. For being what I couldn't. I didn't do it for you, Lyra replied. I did it for him. I know. Cade stood slowly. And that's exactly why he chose right. He left the room, his shoulders bowed with the weight of everything he'd done wrong. Lyra stayed with Finn, holding his hand as the antidote worked through his system, and felt her wolf settle into contentment. She'd won. Against impossible odds, against an Alpha who'd rejected her and a system designed to break her, she'd won. But the real victory wasn't the guardian rights or the completed trials. It was the small hand in hers, trusting and safe. That was everything. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The Pack Council chamber had never been so silent. Serafina knelt in the center of the room, stripped of her Luna crown, her wrists bound with silver that burned her skin. The charges had been read: attempted murder of the Alpha's heir, conspiracy with rogues, falsification of pact documents, systematic abuse of a child under her care. Any one of them would warrant exile. All of them together meant something worse. Serafina Winters, Elder Miriam's voice was ice. You have been found guilty of crimes against the pack and crimes against the moon goddess herself. The protection of pups is our most sacred duty. You violated that trust in the most heinous way possible. I didn't mean, Serafina's voice broke. I just wanted to matter. To be important. You wanted power, Cade corrected from his place at the front. His voice was dead, empty of everything but grief. And you were willing to hurt an innocent child to keep it. He looked different, Lyra thought from her position beside Finn. The Alpha who'd rejected her 6 months ago had been cold, controlled, obsessed with perfection. This man was shattered, raw with the consequences of his choices. The sentence is exile, Miriam continued. You will be escorted to the border and released as a lone wolf. Your pack bonds are severed. You may never return to Blackwood territory on pain of death. Serafina's face crumpled. You can't, I'll die out there. Lone wolves don't survive. You should have thought of that before you poisoned a child. Marcus's voice was harsh. Be grateful the Alpha doesn't demand your life as payment. 2 guards hauled Serafina to her feet. As they dragged her past Lyra, the former Luna's eyes locked with hers, hate and envy and something that might have been understanding warring in their depths. You won, Serafina whispered. But you'll never have him. Not really. You're still the rejected Omega. That doesn't change. No, Lyra agreed quietly. I'm the Omega who saved his son when you tried to kill him. That's what matters. Serafina screamed as they hauled her through the doors. The sound echoed through the packhouse, then faded into distance. Then she was gone. The silence that followed felt like a held breath. The guardian ceremony will take place at sunset, Miriam announced. As is traditional for such a historic occasion. Lyra Thorne has passed the trials. She has earned her place. The council dispersed slowly, wolves avoiding Cade's eyes. The Alpha stood alone at the front of the room, his shoulders bowed. Daddy? Finn's small voice broke the quiet. Are you sad? Cade turned, and Lyra saw the naked pain on his face. Yeah, buddy. I'm sad. 'Cause you picked wrong? The words were innocent, a child's simple understanding. But they hit Cade like a physical blow. He dropped to his knees. Yeah. I picked very, very wrong. Finn squirmed out of Lyra's arms and walked to his father. For a moment, Lyra thought he'd hug him. Instead, the 3-year-old stood there, studying Cade with eyes too old for his face. Lyra says everybody makes mistakes. Even daddies. She's right. Cade's voice cracked. And I made a big one. Are you gonna fix it? I don't know if I can, son. Finn looked back at Lyra, then at his father. You could try saying sorry. That's what Lyra makes me do when I mess up. I don't think sorry is enough for what I did. Lyra says sorry is where you start. Not where you stop. Cade's eyes lifted to meet Lyra's over Finn's head. She saw everything there, regret, shame, hope, desperation. I am sorry, he said quietly. For all of it. For not seeing you. For breaking what we had. For failing Finn so completely that you had to save him from my choices. Lyra felt her wolf stir, but the old pull of the mate bond was gone. Severed 6 months ago when he'd rejected her. What remained was something more complicated. Shared purpose, shared love for the child between them, and the raw wound of everything he'd destroyed. Sorry doesn't fix it, she said finally. But it's a start. The medical wing had become Lyra's domain over the past 24 hours. Finn was recovering well from the poison, his resilient young body burning through the toxins with the help of Dr. Sarah's antidote. But he refused to let Lyra out of his sight. She'd pulled a cot next to his bed and slept there, one hand always touching him, anchoring him. Cade visited 3 times that day. Each time, Finn greeted him politely but without the desperate need a child should have for their parent. It was like watching Cade die by inches. Tell me about your mama, Lyra said to Finn during one of the Alpha's absences. Your first mama. Elena. Finn's face lit up in a way it never did for Cade anymore. She was pretty. She smelled like flowers. And she read me stories every night. What kind of stories? About brave wolves who protected their packs. She said I'd be brave someday too. His voice dropped. But then she went away. Daddy said she went to the moon goddess. She did. But I bet she watches over you still. You think? I know. Because that's what mamas do. They protect their babies, even from far away. Finn was quiet for a moment. Then, are you my mama now? The question punched the air from Lyra's lungs. I'm your guardian, honey. Your protector. But that's what mamas do. Protect. Yes, but... And you read me stories. And you make me feel safe. And you smell nice. He looked up at her with absolute trust. So you're my mama. Lyra's eyes burned. If that's what you want, sweetheart. If that's what feels right in your heart. It does. He snuggled against her side. I had a mama who went to the goddess. And now I have you. That's good, right? Having two mamas? That's very good, Lyra whispered, holding him close. She didn't see Cade standing in the doorway, didn't see the way his face crumpled as he listened to his son claim another woman as his mother. Didn't see him turn and walk away, his shoulders shaking. But Marcus did. The beta found Cade in his office an hour later, sitting in the dark with an empty bottle of whiskey. She's not trying to replace Elena, Marcus said quietly. I know. Cade's voice was raw. She's just being what I wasn't. Present. Caring. Actually giving a damn about my son's needs instead of my own pride. You were grieving. For 2 years, Marcus. 2 years I used as an excuse to ignore my living son while mourning my dead mate. He laughed bitterly. Then I found Lyra. This amazing woman who loved Finn, who tried so hard to be what I needed. And I threw her away because she couldn't shift completely. Because I was so obsessed with perfection that I couldn't see the perfect thing right in front of me. You can't change the past. But I destroyed the future. Cade's hands clenched. She'll never forgive me. Even if the mate bond could be reforged, why would she want it? I proved I'm not worth it. Marcus sat on the edge of the desk. So what are you going to do? Whatever she needs. Whatever Finn needs. Cade looked up, and his eyes were clear despite the alcohol. I'm going to earn the privilege of being a father to my son. Even if it means standing beside the woman I rejected and watching her be everything I wasn't. That's going to hurt. Good. I deserve it. Sunset came too quickly. The entire pack gathered in the ceremonial clearing, hundreds of wolves forming concentric circles around the ancient stone altar at the center. Lyra stood before it in simple clothes, jeans and a white shirt, nothing fancy. She'd refused the ceremonial robes Miriam had offered. I'm not performing, she'd said. I'm promising. Finn stood beside her, his hand in hers, wearing a small suit that made him look impossibly grown up. Cade stood on the other side of the altar in full alpha regalia, his face a careful mask. Elder Miriam raised her hands, and silence fell. We gather to witness something that hasn't occurred in 70 years, she began. The naming of an independent guardian. Not a Luna. Not a mate. But a protector who answers to the moon goddess alone. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was unprecedented. Revolutionary. An Omega holding power equal to the Alphas? Lyra Thorne, Miriam continued, you have passed the 3 trials. Strength, wisdom, and heart. You have proven yourself worthy to protect the heir to this pack. Do you accept this responsibility? I do, Lyra said clearly. Do you swear to put Finn's welfare above all else? Above pack politics, above your own comfort, above even the Alpha's authority? I swear it. Then by the power vested in me by pack law and the moon goddess herself, I name you guardian of Finn Blackwood. Your word is law in all matters concerning his care. Your protection is absolute. Your bond with him is sacred and unbreakable. Miriam drew a silver knife across her palm, then did the same to Lyra's. Their blood mixed as they clasped hands over the altar. Blood to blood. Guardian to ward. May the goddess bless this bond. The pack howled in response, a sound that should have been celebratory but felt more like shock. Then Lyra's wolf surged forward. She hadn't meant to shift. Hadn't planned it. But her wolf had something to say, and it wouldn't be denied. The transformation was complete and beautiful, her silver-white wolf glowing in the fading sunlight. But this time, something was different. Her wolf was larger than before, more powerful. And around her neck, a mark appeared, a crescent moon intertwined with a shield. The mark of an Omega Prime. Gasps echoed through the clearing. Impossible, someone whispered. Omega Primes are myths, another said. But Elder Miriam was smiling, tears streaming down her ancient face. Not myths. Just rare. So rare that most packs go generations without seeing one. She looked at the gathered wolves, her voice carrying across the clearing. An Omega Prime is a protector wolf. They don't complete their shift through the mate bond or pack hierarchy. They complete it through purpose. Through the overwhelming need to protect someone who truly needs them. Miriam turned to Lyra's wolf. You weren't defective, child. You were waiting. The moon goddess made you different for a reason. Made you incomplete until you found your true purpose. Lyra shifted back, her eyes wide with understanding. I was never meant to complete my shift for Cade. No, Miriam agreed gently. You were meant to complete it for Finn. The mate bond was a distraction from your true calling. A test, perhaps, to see if you choose your own path over the one society expected. She looked at Cade, who had gone very pale. And you, Alpha, rejected your mate because she didn't fit your expectations. In doing so, you freed her to become what she was always meant to be. Something greater than a Luna. Something this pack desperately needs. Cade's legs seemed to give out. He dropped to his knees on the ceremonial ground, in front of the entire pack. Lyra. His voice broke. I am so sorry. For not seeing you. For not understanding. For destroying something precious because I was too blind to recognize its value. Cade. Let me finish. Please. He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. I broke the mate bond. I rejected you in front of everyone. I humiliated you, cast you out, treated you like you were worthless. And all along, you were exactly what I needed. What Finn needed. What this pack needed. He bowed his head. I can't undo what I did. The mate bond is severed forever. But I'm begging you, not as your alpha, not as your former mate, but as Finn's father, please let me earn the right to stand beside you. To co-parent with you. To learn from you. The pack was utterly silent, watching their alpha kneel before a rejected Omega. Lyra looked down at him, feeling her wolf's contentment. The old pain was still there, the rejection scars still marked her wrist. But they didn't burn anymore. They were just scars. Evidence of survival, not shame. I don't want the mate bond, she said quietly. Even if it could be reforged, I don't want it. Cade flinched like she'd struck him, but nodded. I understand. But I'll accept your help with Finn. Your presence. Your effort to be the father he deserves. She held out her hand. Not as mates. Not as Alpha and Omega. But as two people who love the same child and want what's best for him. Cade stared at her offered hand for a long moment. Then he took it, let her pull him to his feet. Thank you, he whispered. For giving me more than I deserve. I'm not doing it for you, Lyra said. I'm doing it for him. She looked at Finn, who was watching them with cautious hope. Your daddy wants to be better. To try harder. Should we let him? Finn considered this seriously. Then he walked over and took both their hands, holding them together. We could be a team. Like in the stories. The brave wolves who protect the pack together. A team, Cade repeated, his voice thick. I'd like that. Then that's what we'll be, Lyra agreed. 6 months later. The autumn leaves were falling when Lyra realized how much had changed. Finn was thriving, growing taller, laughing more, sleeping through the night without nightmares. He called her Lyra Mama now, a name he'd invented himself that made her heart swell every time she heard it. Cade had kept his word. He'd stepped back from seeking the mate bond, focusing instead on being present for his son. He attended every bedtime story, every meal, every moment Lyra allowed him to share. He asked permission. Deferred to her judgment. Proved with every action that he'd learned from his mistakes. It was still awkward sometimes. Still painful. But it was working. And the pack was changing too. 3 other, defective, Omegas had come to Lyra after the Guardian ceremony. Wolves who'd spent years believing they were broken, who couldn't complete their shifts no matter how hard they tried. Lyra had recognized them immediately. Omega Primes, all of them. Waiting for their purpose. She'd trained them, helped them discover what they were meant to protect. One had completed her shift while working with traumatized pups. Another while defending the pack's elders from a rogue attack. The third while nursing sick wolves through a fever outbreak. Each one had found their calling. Each one had become complete. "You're creating a revolution," Marcus had told her last week. "Changing how the pack sees Omegas. Sees power." "I'm just helping people see their own worth," Lyra had replied. Now she sat on the porch of the cabin she'd claimed as her permanent home, close enough to the pack house that Finn could run between them, far enough that she had her own space. Finn was inside, napping after a long day of play. Kate approached from the tree line, and Lyra felt her wolf stir with something that wasn't quite the mate bond but wasn't nothing either. Comfort, maybe. Respect. The foundation of something that could become friendship. "He asked for you again," Kate said, settling on the porch steps below her. "When I put him down for his nap," said Lyra Mama 3 times before he'd close his eyes. "He's testing boundaries. Making sure I'm not going anywhere." "Are you?" Cade's voice was carefully neutral. "Going anywhere?" Lyra looked at the forest, at the pack land spread out before them. 6 months ago, I would have run the first chance I got. But now. She smiled. "I have 3 Omega Primes to train. A child who needs me. A pack that's finally starting to understand that different doesn't mean defective. And?" Cade prompted gently. "And I'm happy," Lyra admitted. "For the first time since the rejection, I'm genuinely happy. I'm glad." He was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, watching you with him, watching you become this incredible protector and teacher, I understand now what I lost. What I threw away." "Cade. I'm not asking for it back," he said quickly. "I know that ship sailed. I just wanted you to know that I see you now. Really see you. And you're magnificent." Lyra's throat tightened. "Thank you." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped lower. Then Finn's voice drifted from inside. "Lyra Mama? You there?" "Always, baby." She stood and looked at Cade. "Want to help with dinner? He's been asking for your spaghetti." "Really?" Hope lit his face. "Really? Come on." They walked inside together, not mates but partners in the raising of one precious child. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what either of them had planned. But it was working. That night, after dinner and bath time and 3 stories, Finn looked up at Lyra with his serious face. "Will you stay forever?" he asked. "Even when I'm grown up?" Lyra glanced at Cade, who was standing in the doorway. He mouthed one word, "Please." Her wolf purred with contentment, not the mate bond, but something just as powerful. Purpose. Family. Home. "Yes, little one," she promised, kissing his forehead. "Forever." Finn smiled and closed his eyes, secure in the knowledge that his Lyra Mama meant what she said. Cade met her in the hallway, his eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you. For him. For this. For everything." "We're a team," Lyra said, echoing Finn's words from months ago. "That's what teams do." She was heading to her cabin when Marcus appeared at the packhouse door, his face grim. "Lyra. We have a situation." Her wolf immediately went on alert. "What kind of situation?" "A stranger at the border. Says she needs to speak to the Omega Prime." Marcus's expression was troubled. "She's asking for protection. Says there are others like you." "Other Omega Primes?" Lyra's heart jumped. "Yes. And they're being hunted." The words hung in the air like a threat. Lyra looked back at the packhouse, where Finn slept safely, where she'd built this fragile new life. Then she looked at Marcus. "Take me to her." As they headed for the border, Lyra felt her wolf rise with certainty. She'd thought her purpose was complete, her calling fulfilled. But the moon goddess, it seemed, had other plans. Her journey as an Omega Prime was just beginning. And somewhere out there, wolves like her were waiting for someone strong enough to protect them. Someone who knew what it was like to be called defective and prove the world wrong. Someone who understood that the greatest power came not from perfection, but from purpose. Lyra squared her shoulders and ran toward the border, toward the stranger with desperate news, toward whatever came next. She was ready. She'd been forged in rejection and reborn in purpose. And she would protect what needed protecting. Always. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.